Better today after having gone through that, I guess, a month from hell. We've been all over. We're still traveling, but we're done with the road for a while. We get a chance to get a week off and get back and play a home game. So, it's real exciting. It was exciting. We met yesterday. Our team had its usual Sunday afternoon meeting, and it was so much fun to see our guys, have that gleam in their eye after having won a game. And we didn't know whether we were any good or not, and we still might not be because Florida A&M still not quite, the measuring stick that we probably will need before we can determine whether we can actually be a player in our league or not. But, we were at a point where we were kind of low down there, and, after having gone through the Clemson debacle, it was just what the doctor ordered for us to go out and win a game. And I saw guys playing hard. We played really hard. And we still got issues. We don't necessarily do some things the way I like to see it done at times, but at the same time, it's never been an effort deal. I thought our guys have always really worked at it. And, I'm starting now to see some of the young guys really coming in there and playing good. We had 17 ones and twos play for us, and we had 21 guys who were like freshmen and sophomores that actually got on the field for us for the first time in a conference game on Saturday. So, it's pretty obvious that this is a real young outfit. Our defensive front, running backs, a lot of different groups of people are young guys. And, I've got to, kind of take my hat off and say congratulations to this team because, I think they've gotten through it. We've gotten through it in a frame of mind now. Our main goal at the beginning of the year was we had to win the FAMU game. We knew that it was going to be hard for us to win one of those three tough road games against the bowl subdivision teams. And, the fact that game was kind of stuck right in there before our open week, before we got back home, it was ultra important. So mission accomplished that way. On to the next part of our season.
Coach, what does it mean to you when we just talked about it a second ago? The Dan Patrick Show called your guys' victory over FAMU
right?
best of the weekend.
Well, I appreciate them saying that. I don't know about the rest of the country, but I can guarantee you it was that good for us. We may not have been that good a football team, but we feel like we just won the Super Bowl after having gone through what we've gone through, and then so. I try to not get too high. We try not to get too low when you go through what we've gone through. You want to try to keep kind of an even keel. But, we're real happy today after having gone through it. I'm happy for our guys mostly because they just seem to be so much better today. And we got some guys banged up. We had a couple guys. Looks like we've lost Leonard Jameson for the season. One of our wideouts has had some kind of internal deal. And we need to kind of pay attention to that. Cormel Barnes came out with a concussion. Philip Henry had a little bit of a back deal. Got a couple of guys with some tweaks and twists and that kind of stuff. But we got a chance to see Bishop Ford go out and really make some plays for the first time. And in this kind of setting, he looks like he might be pretty good. And I thought Caleb played well. One of our defensive backs, Marquise Jones from Columbia, had a couple of interceptions. Had some guys that made some plays. So I thought it was fun to see those guys go out and enjoy the game that way. And I'm proud of the fact that we were named whatever that was that Dan Patrick said that we were named. Yeah.
It's a little segment they do on there.
Yeah. Okay. We go for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Coach, I'm sure that the vibe in the locker room afterwards, too, you had to see the look on the guys' faces after a win, the travel, the trips, all the stuff going on, and they get that first W in the column. What that mean to the team? What did it mean to you to be able to see it and share that moment with them, too?
Well, I think that might be why I'm still coaching, after all these years, in search of that particular locker room and that particular atmosphere. That's the most fun part of the whole deal. And, to see them have success, people say sometimes, well, he didn't want to play me or whatever. Nothing could be further from the truth. Everybody wants to see all of their players go out and enjoy the game. And that's the part that you got to do in order to, you can't enjoy the game if you're not winning. So, the fact that they've had that experience now, I feel for the FAMU kids. I can imagine, what they've got to be going through because one of us had to lose, and we've got some other teams in our league right now that are, that are suffering a little bit that way. And I'm pulling for all of them to, to have a weekend such as what we just had because I don't know if the game is worth it if you can't have some success.
Pretty powerful statement. And to see success from York in the offense, you said you're not quite sure what type of team do you have yet, but do you have a feel that, hey, we can be really competitive in our league play? Again, that's what this comes down to, trying to win conference championships. That is the bar here at SC State.
It is. It is. I think anything less than that's, kind of unacceptable. We know that we've got to be in the mix, and you almost don't want to have to deal with a football team here that does not have that particular goal still out there for them. And I've had years where, we put a win or go home kind of notion in their mind, maybe with 4 or 5 games to go, because we knew without that, that the real sense of urgency of the matter would not be there. So I think that's what it's all about here at South Carolina State. We've got to be in the deal. If not, then I think everybody kind of loses interest that way. Although we got great fans, and I think we'll still have good crowds, and it's still better to go play a football game at South Carolina State when they aren't good than it is to go some of the places, when they are. But at the same time, it's not the same.
Yeah, you get to play home, finally.
Yes.
A week of rest here. Talk about how important that is to have a week of rest, and then you
Right.
actually get to play a home game.
You're right. We are going to play at Bulldog Stadium not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. And, I don't know how that feels. It would be a strange kind of sensation of sorts, not having to try to figure out what I need to put in that little suit bag that I carry, every week that I'm going on this trip to go somewhere. So, we get a chance to actually stay home and stay in our own beds and get up the next morning and eat our own food and do that kind of stuff. It's all kinds of little things that will occur this weekend that we will not have had occur. Some of our freshmen ever. So how about that deal?
For those freshmen, what's that going to be like? How do you teach them what to prepare for in this moment? Because they've been so used to being on the road, what a travel plan's like. Now they're home, they have some extra time. How do you keep them focused here?
Well, you know what? There's some good and some bad in being home too. The good part is the fact that we're home. I think everybody enjoys the crowd, the support, all the different kinds of things you get when you play a home game. But one of the bad things about us being at home now is that we are not a hotel team anymore. The Friday nights before, then I've got to put some kind of routine together that can kind of keep them from having to be, involved in the actual what happens on a college campus on Friday night before a football game kind of deal, So we'll have to do some things to keep them busy. We'll have them involved in a sequestered kind of deal, without being really sequestered. And, that'll be part of the process that we'll have to come to grips with for our home game.
In terms of, I just want to touch on something we were talking about before we started the interview, and it was about your mom, how she was a coach. I wonder, what type of coach did you become because of her influence on you in the early years of your life and even to this day?
Well, I think the one thing that I knew from having been around a person who was coaching was, the relationships, probably mean the most of all. And I run into people she was a girls basketball coach that played for her, and they still have a special feeling for her in a way where you knew that the relationships were good. And, I always want people to have enjoyed playing for me and have had some kind of benefit from having played for me. So, we talk about, being able to produce a productive citizen that can go out in the world and actually accomplish stuff and do stuff for the community and the world and what have you, have a real positive effect on their communities, that kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of, what you get from coaching. You like to, think that you want to win games and have good teams and all that kind of stuff, but what you really want to have is for them to be good, solid people who can go out and do stuff and be good family men and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how it goes. And, that's what I learned. That's what I saw happening when I saw my mom do what she does, what she did.
Still your biggest fan on game day?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got some other ones too, but I got a grandbaby who's been to most of my games this year. She's been to the first 3 out of 4 games. It was fun because Clemson was off this past. They played Thursday night, so my son could come to see us play. And in Tallahassee this past Saturday, so they were there. It's the most fun part of the whole deal. After the game, win, lose, or draw, she wants to see Papa. She comes and runs and jumps in my arms. So, I don't know if there could be a better time than that regardless.
That's great.
Speaking of positive influences, what did you see this past Saturday through the bye week you go to work on with the offense? What really picked up the offense? Was it the run game, the pass?
Yeah, You know, I think, yeah, and we're now starting to kind of find ourselves with those guys who ought to be in the right places and that kind of stuff. You know, as far as the offensive depth chart is concerned, we kind of know who ought to be where. We think that we can maybe kind of lean on Caleb to be a guy that can run an offense and put us in the right stuff. We need to probably lean on his throwing ability. He can throw the hang out of it now, and you know, if we could really become a little more consistent in the receiver position, I think that'll be a big emphasis. You know, over the next week or so, then I think that can be a big part of what we do. And then we've got good skill and running. We got 2 freshman running backs. One is a redshirt freshman, and one's a freshman. LeBron Morris didn't play quite as much in this game as he played the previous game against Clemson. But between he and Bishop Ford, you know, those guys, can be home run hitters for us. And so we got running backs, and you know, I think we've got to the point now where we kind of know what this team's about, and the fact that we can run the ball a little bit too. So I think that'll be probably the emphasis that way. And then defensively, I think we think that we got a chance to be really good up front, the defensive front. And having lost the guys that we lost the Hargraves and the Suttles and the Roberts. We lost a lot of guys off of that defensive front from last year. And we got a big that Shaq Crouch kid from over Johnsonville is going to be a monster. He's a 6'5", 6'6", 400-pound guy. We can get him down to about 375, and you talking about a real guy. We got a Rod Perry kid that's playing really good at the defensive front, and Cowser. Some of the older guys too, but now I think we got a chance to be really good in the defensive front. We didn't think that at the beginning of the year because we were just so young and had no idea that we had a chance to be able to. Even against the Clemsons of the world, you could see that those guys, were kind of, hanging in there a little bit. The big problem we had was that we couldn't keep them from their skill from beating us up on the edge because they were just so high that Watson threw the ball really well. And Mike Williams, those big guys caught the ball over our heads and that kind of stuff, but. You could see even then that they weren't roughing us up out there. We belong that way. So, I'm excited by what we get, as far as the possibility of our defensive front coming along. And we knew our linebacker, Darius Leonard, is as good as we've had here at linebacker. And Deshaun Taylor ain't bad. So you get some guys there that can do something. So that's kind of what the mission is. We want to kick the ball a little bit better. Our punters and kickers are pretty good too. So we got enough different pieces together that if we can just kind of keep our guys kind of continue to improve. The one thing that we did do during the entire process of that 4-week stretch now was that I never thought we lost the desire to continue to work hard and improve. And I got to take our hats off to our coaching staff and to our organization in general that way because. I think that might have been the one thing that you really had to be prepared for because I thought we might kind of lose our will a little bit, and we didn't.
Bethune-Cookman, always a monster game, I feel, every year for you guys, and it's a tussle between you two back and forth. Does the open date help, and what are you expecting out of a team? Even though they did surprisingly lose to Savannah State, I didn't even look at that until Kendrick told me. I was like, I'm sorry, to who?
Well, first of all, they tell me Savannah's a good bit better. Of course, that was their first win too. Bethune has not won a game, and they've had injuries. But what I hear is that they've gotten down to the end of that depth chart pretty good at quarterback. They're down to that number 3 guy. The first guy got hurt, and then they got the second guy hurt in the Savannah game. So they're at a point now where they kind of scrounge around trying to figure out exactly what to do with that position. I've seen the Tennessee State and the Alcorn tape. I hadn't had a chance yet to see the Savannah State tape, but both Tennessee State and Alcorn are pretty good. And I feel like that might be kind of par for the course. But the Savannah thing was a little bit of a anomaly that I didn't really expect. I'm gonna have to go see what that's about. The one thing is that they played North Carolina Central. I think it might be in Daytona Beach this week, and Central's pretty good too. So we need to try to. I don't know who to root for in that deal. I don't want necessarily Bethune to, let Central kind of run the tables on that side. We don't play Central, so we need to get them some losses and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, You know, everything they do to Bethune up to the point that, you know, that we play, the guy say my my enemy or my enemy is my friend or something like that. You know, that's kind of how it works. At this point, so I got to kind of root, I guess, for Central at this point, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
So heck, I don't know, but it's kind of strange sensation sauce because, you know, I don't really see that being, you know, what's usually customary in our league.
So you expect it somewhat easier?
Oh, they'll be. Boy, you know what? I'll guarantee you, by the time Bethune-Cookman gets to South Carolina State, then they'll be as good as they can be in 2016. Now, exactly what they got to do to make that happen, they might have to go out and get a player from somewhere that they didn't realize they had. Heck, I don't know, but I guarantee you they'll figure out. Coach and the Bethune staff, that whole organization, you know, lives to get after South Carolina State. So they'll figure it out. I guarantee they will, and they'll probably figure out the sense of urgency created by the shock waves. Maybe I'll say that's probably going through their whole place right now after having lost that game. You know, are probably enormous.
This is a developmental week for you guys since it's a bye week. I mean, you just use a
You know
second
what? I think it'll be, ordinarily that'd be the case, but I think we'll be pretty much working on Bethune. You know, it's the task at hand right now. You know, we'll put a plan